Welcome back to an episode of Business Balance and Beyond. Joined here by the main man himself, Jared Shore. Jared, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back.
Whoop, whoop. Everybody loves to hear Jared because he's just so full of wisdom. All right, here's our opening question today. Why do people say, I'm waiting for the market, like the market asked them?
Because it makes them sound smart. Right? Nobody can predict the market. So, I mean, you know, we listen to the news and they try to tell us what the market's going to happen. Listen, I've been listening to the news for the last 3 years telling us where rates are going to end up, and they've all been wrong. So it just makes us sound smart, and it's really probably out of ignorance that you know, I haven't really researched the market and I don't know what it is, so I'm not doing anything. And it's just a phrase that people use. I'm not buying because the market's not good right now.
Yes.
Listen, I don't know how many economists and financial gurus do you know in your life? Like a percentage of all the people you know, how many are
Less
like
than 1%
very, very,
easily.
very small. So all the people that are saying this are not that.
You're right. We just stick in our lane sometimes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about the BRRRR method for real estate investors. It's a hot topic and it's been around for a long time. This is not a new topic, but it's sometimes people get confused by it. What is it? Where is it? How is it? I don't even know what BRRRR means besides it's cold outside, right? And right now in Indiana, that is accurate. Well, kind of. It warmed up quite a bit.
Warmed up a little bit, but
you know, 0 degrees up to like 50.
yeah.
You know, it's right there. All right, so Jared, why does the BRRRR method continue to dominate investor conversations?
Well, in theory, right, the BRRRR method is awesome because it's essentially, you know, I don't want to say free money, but it's essentially a way to scale your business without having to really invest a ton of money. You have to invest some money on your first property. But if you do it right, that money just rolls to the second property, the third property, and it allows you to essentially acquire properties with your investment on the first property.
And I guess let's go back to, before you jump too far into that, can you explain what is the BRRRR method?
Yeah. So the BRRRR method is an acronym. It's B with a bunch of R's after it. And it's buy, then rehab the property, then rent it out once it's rehabbed, then refinance the property, and you're going to pull out your initial investment, and you're going to take that money and go redo it and you know, repeat it, and then start back at the B. And so it's literally a strategy where, you know, if the numbers work and you can do a cash out refinance on the end, pull out your initial investment, and then take that cash and go buy property 2. Again, follow it again, refinance, pull the cash out, property 3, and just kind of keep it rolling. And now you're acquiring properties without really spending a ton of money out of pocket.
Yeah. So we've talked about this in the past, but cash reserve play a big role in that. But the concept here is being able to fix up a property a little bit more to increase its value, right? And then be able to take that money back out. So yes, you're using your own money to get into it. You're still doing the normal things, but by making it better, right, you're getting that extra equity gain, right?
And on top of that, you've got cash flow because you're putting a tenant in there. And you know, they should be at that point, the tenant would be paying your mortgage for you in an ideal world.
So then how does refinancing unlock growth without selling?
Well, in this market, and I should, before we get into refinances, I think one of the things we should talk about is the time frame it takes to do the BRRRR method, right? If we were talking 5-6 years ago doing this, you could buy, everything was cheaper, right? You could buy things for cheaper. You could renovate for cheaper. Property values were still, you know, they were good. And so you were able to refinance pretty quickly and pull the cash out. The market we're in right now, the BRRRR method is still there. I think the strategy people have to realize is if you can find a true BRRRR property where you can refinance it right away, like grab them, right?
Right.
There's just not very many out there.
Yeah.
The BRRRR method's still there.
Yeah.
It just may take longer.
Yeah.
You might have to refinance and know you have to keep your money in the property for right now because there's not enough equity that you were able to build to be able to pull your money out right then and there. But if you look at the history of houses and the housing market, house values are always going to go up.
Yeah.
And so you may be able to complete that BRRRR on that property. It just may not be till year 2 or 3. And then you have the ability to refinance that property as the value goes up. And in the meantime, guess what you've been doing? You've been paying that property, the mortgage down, and you're building that equity in the property, then being able to refinance, capture that equity, and then go do property 2.
Yeah. Well, I did jump ahead a little bit. So let's go back to the buying and rehabbing portion. So what are the options for us to be able to go into the buying and rehab specifically?
Yeah, so there's really 2 options. You can buy it cash, right? You can buy this property cash, and do your own rehab on it.
Yeah.
There are some options out there where you could finance just the purchase side of it and do the rehab on your own.
Yeah.
Most lenders are going to require you to to finance if you're doing a loan on the buy and the rehab side. They're going to require you to at least put some portion of the rehab in there. But really, those are your 2 main options: is to buy cash or finance it.
Yeah. Okay. And then financing, we have hard money loans. You can go into a DSCR option. Again, some people going into house hacking, so they get a conventional loan, fix it up, and then it's the same concept. Just there's several different ways.
Yeah, there's different ways. Now, if you have the cash to be able to buy a property and rehab it with your own cash, it's the cheapest way to do it from a cost of doing loans. And you can still do the BRRRR method with that strategy. If you're doing it with financing, and you don't have to have as much cash to do that. So a lot of the times the down payments are much smaller. The closing costs on it sometimes are a little bit more expensive because it's a higher risk loan. But at the end of the day, the financing of the buy and the rehab, it's going to allow you to do multiple deals and it's going to allow you to limit the cash that you've got. And that's where your cash on cash return comes from too. You're spending less money up front out of pocket to make the same amount of money that you would if you invested 100% cash into the deal and made the same amount of money. So different strategies. And it goes back to, what is your cash situation?
Awesome. Okay. So we've had this question a couple different times, but when it comes to refinancing, can you explain a little bit about seasoning? Because as investors, they all are like, hey, what is seasoning? And shoot, sometimes I'm like, hey, what is seasoning on the loan side? But seasoning is a word that comes up often. Can you explain in the BRRRR method how seasoning affects everything?
Absolutely. So as soon as you close on that property and you buy that property, that kickstarts a time frame that before you can refinance, or I should say before we can use the new full appraised value of that property, right? The after repair value. And it's wildly all over the place depending on what lender we're working with. So we have some lenders that we operate with that have no seasoning periods whatsoever. So as soon as you buy that property, you can turn around next day and do a cash out or some sort of refinance, and we can use the new appraised value. So maybe you bought a property and you just got a heck of a deal on it. I'm going to use some extreme numbers here just for example purposes, but let's say you bought it for $100,000,
right?
And you bought it, maybe it's with financing, maybe a hard money loan, maybe cash, it doesn't matter. And it needs very little work, if any work, but it's going to be worth $200,000.
Right.
So you buy it, day 2, it's worth $200,000. Some lenders will require inside of a 6-month period to only use the purchase price of that property to be able to do a refinance. With most of our lenders, it's either a 0 seasoning period or a 3-month seasoning period to be able to use that $200,000 value in that example. And so it's great. Those are because if you are doing a rehab, normally it takes 30, 60 days to do a rehab, right? You need a tenant in there. Probably takes a few weeks, if not longer, to get a tenant in there, get a lease agreement signed.
Right.
And by that time, you're 3-4 months into the project anyway. And, we're good to go from a seasoning standpoint.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay. So who is the BRRRR method best for then?
It's best for anybody that wants to scale and do, be able to acquire properties with less money out of pocket than you were to buy that property turnkey.
Yeah.
Especially if your goal is to continue to hold properties.
Yeah.
This, it's not, the BRRRR method doesn't really apply if you're flipping, right? If you're flipping, you're buying it, you're rehabbing it, and that's where the BRRRR method ends for you, right? You get to go, keep your cash or when you sell it and go buy another one, rehab it, flip it, and keep going. This strategy is really for somebody who wants to hold. And it's for somebody who not necessarily doesn't have cash to buy turnkey properties, but it's really for any investor that can find good deals, get value add to them, put a tenant in there, and hold it.
Yeah.
Because the difference is, like, I'll go back to we'll use a $200,000 property example. If you were going to buy that property turnkey, and let's just use a 25% down in our example, that's $50,000 plus closing costs. Let's call it $60,000 total you're spending on that property. Whereas if you were going to do a buy and rehab to get to 200,000, you may only spend 15 to 20 out of pocket to do that, to end up with the same exact property in the end.
Yeah. No, that's How many people do we go through that process with, where they're just like, man, I just don't even know where to go with that.
Here's we were talking about how to acquire these properties, and here's a strategy to think about too if you are going to hold properties. All right, and this is you kind of have to understand lending and how lending works and how rates work to implement this strategy. But if you buy a property cash out of your own pocket, do the rehab out of your own pocket, and now you go to refinance it. It's just a cash out refinance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I know. I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's okay. See, this is what it helps me learn.
So a cash out refinance, typically comes with a higher interest rate than if you're just doing a rate and term refinance, where you're just paying off the existing loan. So if your strategy is to hold this property, it's typically better long term to finance the initial purchase and the rehab, and then don't take cash out, right? Because now you're just doing a rate term, and that could be 1/4 to 1/2 point lower than a cash out refinance. So you end up with the same exact loan amount on both strategies. One just comes with a lower interest rate, right? And so that means lower payment. That means more cash flow. Long term, that's a better deal.
Yeah, and you're still leaving less money in the deal in a way, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's
so there's some interesting strategies there. If you look at it long term, can I finance this and can I leave money in the deal without pulling out cash so I have a better loan on the back end long term?
Yeah, and that goes back to cash is king, right? And at the end of the day, it's still an investment. Right. So leaving money in the deal is kind of a part of the gig. You're trying to set yourself up so that you can make better cash flow and be able to pay off other things, because there's so many other strategies behind real estate investing. Let's talk a little bit. This is a hot topic too within this space, but let's talk about appraisals. Because I feel like so many people, investors specifically, they're like, I got to have an appraisal at this number. Right? I'm just going to let you go with that.
I could talk all day about appraisals. It's funny whenever we get, quote unquote, a low appraisal, right? Like, what are we basing a low appraisal off of? It's usually whatever the investor tells us they think that value is. And then the appraisal, comes in somewhere, right? And what I always say, if we get, quote unquote, a low appraisal, it's usually your neighbor's fault. Right, because they're either selling their properties for less than than maybe what it should be, or something like that. But the biggest, I would say the hardest part to come up with an appraised value right now, especially with investors that are following the BRRRR method,
Yeah.
especially right now, it's December. Okay. Think about the people who are buying properties right now using the BRRRR method. When are they going to refinance?
Yeah.
Probably in
The next couple
April, May, somewhere in that time frame, right? And I'm using generalizations here.
Right.
The comparables that we're using right now to get an after repair value are going to be based off of the last 12 months from right now. We could use technically comps from December of 2024.
Yeah.
All right, fast forward 5 or 6 months. Now the most that we can use from an appraisal is April or May of 2025. If the market changes drastically during that time frame, we are looking at two different markets.
Yeah.
And so the values of those properties, hopefully, right? We want the market to continue to go up. In the last year or so, we saw this exact scenario where, people bought in late 2024. They wanted to flip. They put their houses on the market. They didn't sell in early 2025, and they were just sitting on these properties. And then their strategy changed to where now they wanted to refinance. And because properties weren't selling, they were selling at lower values. Now all of a sudden we have a lower appraised value from where we were anticipating it off of an appraisal that we had early, last year.
Yeah.
So the market changes. So I think having the right expectations of that, dollar per square foot is probably the biggest misconception that we see out there with our investors, is they see on Zillow, hey, the dollar per square to this property, the dollar per square foot of that property, and that can get you in the ballpark. But there's so many other things that the appraiser is looking at to essentially make sure you have an apples to apples comparison between your two properties. So it's a hard topic because most of the time appraisers are right. If there's a value that comes in and is not what we were expecting, most of the time they're right. It may not be what you want, but for the most part they're right. There are bad appraisals out there, that happen every once in a while, but for the most part, it's the one piece of the puzzle us as lenders can't control. And it has the biggest influence on our loan. Is where that value comes back at. Now, one thing, and this is where the rules in lending and appraisals, I don't have an explanation for this one, but if you're purchasing a property, we give the purchase contract to the appraiser. The appraiser knows what the sale price is on that property. Now, they don't know if they're going full asking or underneath asking. But 9 times out of 10, the value of that property comes in dead on where where the purchase price is. With a refinance, we just tell them, go give us your opinion of the property, right? And I'd love to talk to 2008 had a huge impact on this because people were influencing the values of properties. But at the end of the day, if we can give the appraiser knowledge of a purchase and where we need that property to come at, there should be some rules in place where we can at least tell them, hey, here's where we're thinking. There should be a conversation that's able to be had around that, and not just here's where we think it is. Because it's weird to me that purchases come in at value almost all the time, and appraised values are just all over the place for refinances sometimes.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. So long story short with that is be conservative with your numbers. If you're trying to max out your leverage up front when you're doing the BRRRR method, no, you might have to adjust based off an appraised value. It's why if you can get a deal where you're leaving some equity in it up front, that gives you more flexibility on the back end when you go to appraise that property and refinance.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Also, have a really good realtor that can run really good comps for you, even on the refinance side. Because again, those comps are going to change from the time you purchase it to the time that you refinance it.
Yes. And if you need help finding a great realtor, always feel free to reach out to us as well, because that's what the world we live in every day. And so we can pair you with the right person.
Yep.
Man, Jared, thank you so much. That was a big knowledge drop.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Well, so we learned about the BRRRR method today. We're going to buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Jared shared a lot of stuff on how to do that the appropriate way, some of the things involved in that. We also learned today about appraisals and how appraisals really affect a lot of the outcomes of the loan. And again, it's one of those things that people get frustrated with, but they're doing a job just like everybody else. We all have our own lane that we have to stick in. I mean, how many people typically touch something related to a real estate transaction? What's that number?
I was told by a very trusted realtor here in the Indian market, something like on a purchase transaction, there's upwards of 27 different people that could potentially work on a deal. Now there's that's sometimes on the list side and things like that, but yeah, up to 27 different vendor partners that are working on a deal.
Yeah. So, and again, that's why we always come back to a team being so important, because 27 hands touching that at some point, you want to make sure that everybody is following together with everything.
Yep.
And that's one of the things, like preaching communication between the lender to the real estate agent to the title company. And again, all of the above and in between is so powerful, because that's how we get to the closing table. That's how we finish out a deal. So that is a big piece of what we believe in here at Mamba Mortgage. Is communication is key. And two, it's what helps us get to the finish line. Jared, thank you so much for being here, man. Again, just always such a wealth of knowledge. Thank you.
Listen, I love that you talk me up. Like I'm great. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll come on any day if you're going to keep doing that.
Look, we're going to keep working on it, because the goal is I'm trying to get in the selection with Jared. Well, he'll invite me to golf more, because my golf game's not there yet to match. But we're sweet talking a little bit to get there first.
We need to have a golf tennis playoff.
I feel like,
because I can play tennis a little bit, but I don't play enough. Like, your golf game is probably comparable to my tennis game.
okay, here's the thing. We played table tennis like probably a month ago now, and Jared's really confident with a lot of. He was like, I'm probably top 5% in the world, right?
Not a ping pong.
Oh,
Pickleball.
He's okay. Pickleball too. That's another topic. But I was like, all right, let's play. And he is really stinking good. And I'm not like, I'm an above average player. I can't say I'm the best player out there. But because I've got a tennis background, it typically flows in well. But man, he smoked me. Like, I got points on the board. I got points, but I'm pretty sure it was like 21-10, if that. And I was like, huh. No, he's got a game. But we've also played like random. What's the little board game?
Quarto.
Quarto. That one was a fun one. It's a strategy game, and you have to think like 6 moves ahead. And those are a lot of fun. But I love playing those with Jared, because I know he's already got his game plan in it, because that's typically how he thinks. And that's my
It's
goal.
all strategic. Like,
it is.
I'm going to play a game that I probably know I'm going to win.
Yeah.
So Quarto, you've never played before. I've played a lot, and I know the strategies around it. So I set you up for failure.
That's okay.
So my apologies.
Got to learn somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we do some sort of triathlon here at Mamba, right? Where you play tennis, play golf, and then we could pick a third one. And it's not going to be Quarto.
One that we're mutually bad at.
Okay. Can you swim?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. Were you a swimmer in high school?
No, but I've taken some elite swim classes.
You said that like, yeah, I don't swim, but I'm kind of a pro already.
No. It's been a hot second since I've done any swimming.
Okay.
I've swam very casually.
Okay. Well, if you guys want to see a head-to-head triathlon with Jared and I, we're going to bring in some other people here at Mamba. We're going to call them out too to involve in that. And if there's any realtors out there too, let's get them in on it too. Let's have some fun with it. That could be.
And I think the last thing you want to see me in swimming is a Speedo right now. So
I think that. I mean, that.
I
Could
mean,
also,
it could attract a lot of people, or we could be done.
look. Dads and Speedos. I think there's a comeback there because it's same for me. I feel like a lot of people are but you know what? When in dad mode, you got to stay in dad mode. So hey. Thank you guys so much for being here. That wraps up Business Balance and Beyond. You guys have an awesome rest of your day. And remember, you got this.